It's time to talk Michigan football with Jerry Diorio. He joins us on the line. It's great to see him on this Friday. Jerry, what's going on? How are you?
Great to be a Michigan Wolverine, Danny. Love it. Having fun and looking forward to the season. Getting itchy already, man. It's getting itchy. Getting itchy, Danny.
Yeah, I get that. I understand that. I am stopping to smell the roses a lot this off season. I've tried to do that the last few years, and I'm enjoying this off season. And I enjoyed 3 years ago the off season, and then I enjoyed the 22 off season, and then last year, it's great. But you do. I miss football, and you'll love it so much. There's so many games. You almost, I wish at times it could just be an all year round type affair because we like football so much, but you need a little breather and, a couple months to do something else for a little bit. So the NBA Finals game one wasn't the greatest release, for a sports fan. So,
but yeah. I think basketball, the NBA is starting to make a serious comeback. I like some of these young players. There's some serious talent in there. I mean, there's some really serious talent right now, and in the finals, in the semifinals, it was. So I'm starting to see some real comeback from the NBA. I haven't been excited about the NBA for a number of years, but I'm seeing a lot of interesting, exciting things.
With winter sports, both basketball and hockey, if your teams are in it, it's great. It is as good. I mean, it's just almost as good as football. Football, it's like doesn't matter. Like, of course, you want your team to win and everything, but you're going to watch and you just can't wait. It's just it's such a perfect sport and game and everything else. We all love it. But basketball with the Pistons the last few years, and then Michigan last year is. But so you get Michigan hockey. If you get the Red Wings back going, now you're really talking about something.
And that's why all the excitement for Michigan basketball. Michigan is Michigan people, everybody wants to talk about Michigan being a football school. Well, there's some truth to it, but not really. The fact of the matter is Michigan is successful in all sports. I mean, we've been a leader in basketball way back when, hockey, girls sports, softball, girls basketball is coming on. So, I mean, Michigan has always been a leader in all different sports and the diversity of our athletic program. And yeah, you're right, Denny. When wintertime comes and Michigan's in it, man, it is exciting. It's great to turn the tube on and listen to some of the stupidness that comes out of some of these experts.
It's true, and with this year with Dusty, you get. It's such a blank canvas and all of these different players and how they're going to fit in and how Dusty is going to be able to coach them with only the 3 returning players and then the rest of them out of the transfer portal and then 3 recruits. So it's going to be, I was going to say, wow, it's going to be interesting to see. And, everybody, you see guys, Michigan can compete for the Big Ten. Oh, they'll be, dancing in Dusty's first year. People are excited, just because of that unknown. We'll have a lot of time to talk about that. And Dusty might have something going this weekend to keep an eye on. We've got something to keep an eye on, getting you in to this weekend. One, Michigan's most highly rated commitment for this year is off and is planning on visiting another school. That's got people, going crazy. We'll talk about the particulars there, see where Jerry lands on Nathaniel Marshall taking another visit, an official visit this weekend before he comes up to Ann Arbor later on this month. But we're going to talk a little bit about USC. There's a lot of talk, Jerry, and for good reason, about the Texas game, the non-conference game. But after that, if Michigan was playing the non-conference games from the last 2 years, there'd be a lot of talk about USC, with those old Pac-12 teams, the 4 teams coming in, and of course USC being right there on the non-conference slate. That is exciting, but you might have just saw something flash before your eyes, Jerry, and you're familiar with the game Jeopardy, right?
Oh, yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir.
All right, well, last night on Jeopardy, the category was 21st century sports. The century that we're in right now, that was the category, Jerry. I am going to give you the question, and I'm guessing that you're going to be able to answer it. Okay?
Oh, you're killing me, Denny. All right, let's go.
All right, here we go in the category 21st century sports. A bit like Sci-Fi's Anywhere Door or Phoenix Gate, it opened on October 15th, 2018 to whisk college athletes to a new school. I'm going to read it one more time.
What is the transfer portal?
Correct, and you phrased it the correct way. Nice job there, Jerry, the transfer portal. If it starts out there, you might be a little bit confusing because I don't really know what the Phoenix Gate is.
Or Sci-Fi.
Yeah, a little bit of, sci-fi there, but yeah, you are exactly right. And, Adam was right there with you. What is the portal? Exactly. If you would have said what happened, a key date in college football, if this was Final Jeopardy on October 15th, 2018, and that was it, I don't know if I would have come up.
I don't think I would have had that one. I would have probably really said the NIL or transfer. I might have said the NIL and transfer portal. Yeah, I would have probably said something.
Maybe I would have, but I bet you would have. I have that confidence in you. All right, good job. You've already come right out and done it. Let's get to Nathaniel Marshall. He is Michigan's, I mentioned, highest rated recruit right now, and he's the number 1 player in the state of Illinois, and he's ranked number 23 nationally. The last time I checked, there were 22 5-stars ranked by rivals, and then they went to the 4-stars. I mean, he's the highest ranked 4-star. He's damn near a 5-star. And so, yeah, Michigan fans were really excited when he pledged to the Wolverines back. You see it there. What's that? April the 22nd. So it's been a while and people feeling pretty good about it. But now he just says that he is heading down to Auburn, Alabama to visit the Tigers and Hugh Freeze. So, Jerry, what's your reaction immediately when you see that Marshall, the commitment? Is it like he gone or, well, everything's fine? Where are you at with it?
Well, first of all, the recruiting process has gone so early that you can't settle on commits. You see commits all the time, leaving their commitment and going somewhere else or committing somewhere else. A lot of that is due, in fact, because the process is taking so long and so early. People are going after these kids. They're sophomore, some in freshman year, and they're starting to recruit these kids at that point in time. And I think that makes for a real long, drawn-out process that you're going to have a lot of this stuff, number one. Number two, let's not forget, these are 18-year-old kids. They are being treated like kings, like they've never been treated before in their life. They're being told how great they are, and that they're visiting the best place on earth, okay? And so it doesn't surprise me. It's not surprising to me at all that we got our number 1 recruit still getting interest from all these other schools. They're going to be keeping their interest on this young man, especially now with the transfer portal. They're going to keep their interest all the way through this 4 years because who knows? They might get him on the 5th or the 6th year. So that has really changed the recruiting. This young man is visiting Auburn. Let's put ourselves in this young man's shoes. He's looking to get the best opportunity he can for not only himself, but his family. I mean, I don't know anything about this young man's background. I don't know where he's come from, demographically or financially. I don't know anything about that. But I will bet you that he is considering what school to go to because of how he can help his family. And that's the bottom line. He's going to look at all the different offers, and at the end of the day, next February or whenever, he's going to make a decision on who gave him the best offer at the time. And that's really his right. I mean, yeah, I don't like seeing it.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. If you were Sharon Moore or worked on the staff and you were recruiting Marshall, and he called up and said, I want to commit, would you say, hey, are you sure? Or, do you want to go take other visits? I mean, what's you're going to take the commitment? It's not like you come out like you, Jerry, on Michigan side saying, we've got a commitment. Michigan's not really involved there. What's Michigan say to someone who's like, I'm committing this weekend? You're going to take the commitment, right? It's not like you say, don't do that.
Okay, folks. Well, remember, I was 18 at the time this happened. Okay, I was heavily recruited. Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan, Iowa, Purdue. Those were my schools, and Purdue at the time was a top-notch team. And Iowa was up and coming with the Stoops brothers going in, and they were making a huge push. Barry Alvarez was the coach recruiting me. And so I was very heavily recruited my senior year. And I went to the Ohio State weekend after I had just come back from the Michigan weekend. And I can tell you, my 18-year-old mind was mush. It was scrambled eggs. I didn't know exactly what to do. And so what did Ohio State do? They basically put me in a corner. They wanted me real bad. Earl Bruce was there. They're very nice people, no question about it. And I committed to Ohio on campus in Columbus a week after my Michigan visit and a couple weeks before the signing date. So I committed to Ohio. And that next week, they say you go to school to Ohio State to party all weekend and to recover from the weekend on the weekdays to go back to the weekend. Okay. That's the Ohio's reputation. So that week I was sick as a dog all week long after the Ohio visit. And my next visit, and I did this strategically to go to the Mardi Gras in New Orleans to Tulane. So I have Ohio State. I commit at Ohio State. The next week is Tulane. I'm looking to go to the Mardi Gras. And the final week would be Notre Dame. That next week, I went to I was ready to go for my Tulane visit. I was sick as a dog. The coaches called me up, said, hey, you ready to come down? I said, Coach, I made a commitment to Ohio State. I'm going there. I'm not really feeling too good. They were off the phone within 10 seconds. They were looking for the next recruit. The next Monday comes around, and Notre Dame was my final visit. I told Notre Dame the same thing. And I think it was Coach Yonto and Coach Galbraith. They told me, listen, you're never going to get treated like this again. We won't recruit you. We're Notre Dame. We know we haven't talked to you in 3 weeks. We don't need to talk to you. You're either come to Notre Dame because you love Notre Dame or you don't. We're not going to push you. But the plane tickets are already paid for. The room's paid for. Come on down, meet Coach Devine. We won't even talk to you, and you can go home. Sounded good to an 18-year-old, right, Denny?
It sounds good now. Yeah.
I told Glenn Mason, who was recruiting me for Ohio, that, and he knew I hated Notre Dame. He knew I had no intention really to go to Notre Dame. I just, I wanted to go see the campus. And he told me that if you go, we can't guarantee that there will be a scholarship waiting for you when you get back from Notre Dame. And so what did I do? I went to Notre Dame. They gave me a scholarship, and I ended up going to Michigan the next 3 days later on Wednesday's signing date. So I don't. The bottom line is, the moral of the story, I don't think it's ever a good idea to give somebody an ultimatum. Take it or leave it, and things are still up in the air. So this is a great ball player. He's a difference maker. Let him have his space. Let him see what's out there. At the end of the day, if we think he's really that good, Michigan will make the play bigger than anybody else. And I pretty much can guarantee you that.
Jerry, if there were all of these sites, back in the day, they'd have been going to these recruiting analysts that say, I just don't have a feel on this Diorio, man. He wants to go to Mardi Gras. He's committing to Ohio State. Now he's taking a visit. Don't rule out Michigan. Don't rule out anything. He could be a signing day special. Wow, man, you'd have had everybody, going crazy about
Denny, I used to say, high school football coaches might be the dumbest people in America. And the reason for that is, think of the demographic we're dealing with. 15, 16, 17, and 18-year-old young men, the most unpredictable demographic in society. And that's what we make our money on. That's a hard living. But no, I enjoyed it tremendously. I loved it. Obviously, I'm being facetious, but you're dealing with young men who have never been put in this position before, that are enjoying life. They're looking to enjoy more of life. And that's the deal. And you got to be ready for it. Those are the people you're dealing with. You're dealing with people that they're looking to have a good time. And they want the best offer.
It's a good story. I have to go back. I was talking 2 weeks ago just to the people, and I said, and somebody made a comment like, recruiting just means you're favoring a team. It doesn't mean a whole lot. And I disagreed with that. I said, look at Michigan. Normally when they get a commitment, 95% of the guys, they're going to end up signing with Michigan. But I think that I should have said, unless they're really highly rated, because the really highly rated ones, they had a propensity to change their mind at the last minute and take other visits. And, you always felt like from a Michigan standpoint that, somebody must have made a run at them with an offer that was too good to refuse, that kind of thing. You mentioned earlier, they just had a ruling 2 weeks ago that you can transfer as many times as you want. So even if you commit and take all these visits and then go somewhere, and then you could be like Jeremiah Beasley, who committed to Michigan, went to spring ball. Now he's off to Missouri. He could go to Missouri. He could leave after his freshman year. He could go to 5-6 different schools. I don't know how many ever he could go to. And the part where now, before it was clandestine and people were, putting, favors in, fast food bags or briefcases or whatever else, giving it to your pastor or your coach or your assistant coach, talking about money, or your uncle. Now you don't have to do that. Now they can just say, look, we're going to get you $100,000 right now. That's got to be pretty, especially for the guys that are in Marshall's case. He is getting offers. He's going to get and I didn't see this. I did see somebody had mentioned, I forgot who it was, that not only is he going to Auburn, but he set up visits to Miami and Alabama. Well, we know Miami, they are pay up front you. They are the bag you. They are going to be making him a big time offer. So I don't know if you're a Michigan fan, and how do you even process this? Do you have to say, have him go through all of this, and then we don't know if Michigan is in the business of giving signing bonuses to the high school players. So it's all going to play out. We don't know. In years past, we know actually that they weren't in that business, but and it was strategic a lot of ways. We know when it comes to the transfer portal that it appeared that they were making offers to players, but not to high school players. But getting into this new era where you get the antitrust and everybody in the NCAA has been put over here, and the NCAA said, no, we're not going after anybody. We're not going to be looking at any NIL. We're not looking at any of this, which basically said, go ahead, do whatever you want, I think, to everyone. So it's an interesting spot that Michigan is in now.
Well, I got to comment on John Schultz saying, "Damn, Jerry, that was walking Animal House on his recruitment." John, yeah, you're pretty accurate. You're pretty straight on that. And I'll tell you what, there's a heck of a lot more people out there than you think of. I mean, it's remember, think about when you're 18 years old, what you're thinking about when you're 18. Okay, that's what these kids are going through. And at the end of the day, when we played, when Scar and I played, you chose the school, you signed, and you pretty much went for 4 years. Those days are over. You're going to see where collective bargaining is going to be a part of college football very soon here. You're going to see where people are going to start to say, listen, we agree that the players should get money. We agree that the players should have some freedom to move along during their career, their college career. I have no problem with that. What we're going to need to see, though, is how college football is going to police itself. And the only way they're going to be able to do anything is with the collective bargaining. They're going to probably go with some kind of union stuff. And there's going to probably be contracts for players where you're going to have to stay for 2 years or 3 years or whatever. And so those things are going to be spelled out, I have a feeling, in the future. But right now, it's fun to be a player.
Yeah, I don't feel like really nervous. I know there's some Michigan fans. It's over. Michigan's not going to pay, and, they're going to go down the tubes. 2 years ago, there was a similar sentiment when it came down to admissions. Like, Michigan can't get anybody in. They're screwed. Well, they attacked that. They've got 19 players since then, so they have done a good job. Anybody, looking at the transfer portal, they got a late start. We'll see how this crop. But last year's guys that they were able to get in the transfer portal, almost all of them were impact guys. They brought in 2 kickers, and one of them, won the job, and James Turner. So the other one didn't, but almost everyone else. He had a backup quarterback in Tuttle. It was good that they didn't need him. He ended up getting hurt, but all those other guys, and especially when you think about the impact, Josh Wallace really came on at the end of the year. So did Josiah Stewart. I mean, these guys, these are big-time impact guys.
Good.
Drake Luchet, Ladarius Henderson, and
How about good? The defensive lineman.
Yeah, he was
a lot of good snaps.
Yeah, he was from the year before, and AJ Barner came right in. He didn't have a lot of fanfare, and he fit right in. I mean, he was perfect, kind of the perfect transfer portal player there. And they were able to use NIL as much as I don't know. I say I complain. Everyone complains about Michigan NIL. They did keep their players. The majority of them this year. There might be a couple that you'd say that you'd have. DJ Waller could have been one, or you might say, hey, Herring, or even Jeremiah. Maybe they should. I don't know. There's going to be some attrition there. I looked over the last 5 years, the average ranking from Rivals, where Michigan ended up finishing, and I got an 18, a 9, a 10, 11, and a 10. So that averages out to be number 12 in the last 5 years, and they won. We know what they did in the last 3 years. With a number 12 average recruiting class, and the year before that, there was like a huge wobble. They were almost at 30, and those guys. So, but this is not including that. So I don't know if we're thinking about, will Michigan ever be Alabama or Ohio State, or these top 5 annually recruiting, classes will bring it in. Probably not. I know back in 98, they were number 1, but mostly they are closer to 10 than they are 1. And, can that continue? I think it can. I think it can continue that way. Is I going to freak out if they're 15 or 17 this year coming off a national championship? I don't know. I'm not freaking out, but I also think that if they feel like they can then change, or they need to change a little bit, they're in a good position with the resources that they have and the conference that they're in and the actual university and everything that they have going for them, that they can make that adjustment. So I don't know. Is that being too much of a, sound like, well, you're really, you're a real Michigan man there, sound like, or do you agree with that?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm agreeing or not, but here's the deal, Denny. You just said the last 5 years, and if I'm not mistaken, that would go back to 18. And if you're not mistaken, that's the date the transfer portal basically came into play. And so when you look back at the last 5 years, who's played the transfer portal best in the country? I think there's a case that Michigan is right there between conflating your recruiting and your transfer portal and mixing those two together. I think Michigan has a real argument that they've done the best job over the last 5 years of any college football program. I think we have utilized the transfer portal. We've utilized those players. They've been very big contributors. They've been very productive. Our recruits are meshing well with them. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think Michigan is proven to be one of the better ones at connecting transfer portal with recruitment.
I hear what you're saying. You talk a little USC, and they're coming in. I've made a couple notes about the Trojans. I was looking through the record book because I was like, I don't remember Michigan beating USC. I've always felt like they lost to them. That's because mostly they have. You go back in 2006. Remember there was the game of the century against Ohio State. Michigan lost that one. The consolation prize, which wasn't bad, was going out to the Rose Bowl, but they played USC and then they got beat there. The one time, my personal story, that I have been to the Rose Bowl was the 2004 season, 2005 game. Matt Leinart and Mike Williams and Kerry Colbert. They lost to Pete Carroll's Trojan team in that game. But you go back 89, 78. These are sandwiched between the seasons that you were in there, Jerry. But 76, that was a really good Michigan team. Obviously, Bo's first team, they lost to USC. He got to the Rose Bowl, and that would be something that was going to be talked about a lot, about Bo getting out to the Rose Bowl and losing. The wins, you get to 88, these 57 and 58, those were non-conference games. Those weren't the Rose Bowl. And in 47, you know about the 47 season, right?
Yep. The Magicians, weren't they?
The Mad Magicians, and I think they beat, was it 49-0, 50-0, and yet was it Notre Dame still got voted number one or something? So I don't know. That would have been a hell of a thing. Michigan was undefeated, and then they rolled USC by 49 points or something, and they still weren't unanimously or didn't share the title. So there's always an asterisk there. Michigan claims that one, and I think they should. I mean, to me, it seems like if I was doing a talk show back in 47, or if I was a writer, I think they had a stake to it. I put all that out there just to go back and think about it. We've seen USC a lot in some big time matchups, and now you have Lincoln Riley, who is so. If you said who's the number one offensive mind in college football, I don't know, Jerry. I've given you a little time to think about it. Mike Leach just passed away a couple years ago. His name used to get mentioned a lot there, but Lincoln Riley, man, he gets a quarterback, and they end up being Heisman Trophy winners, certainly candidates. And here he is again, Mr. Offense. The biggest thing and the best thing, I can say about him, remember Jalen Hurts was at Alabama and he transferred to Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley, and then Riley put his hands on him, and he took him from, getting benched and playing behind Tua to, a star thrower even. So this guy's a hell of an offensive coach.
Well, we're looking at USC. We're going to preview USC a little bit today. And so, you have to start with the head football coach, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, how do you want to talk about this? Well, strength and weaknesses. Let's look at his strengths and weaknesses. I don't think there's a better quarterback development coach in college football today than Lincoln Riley. And I say today because I think we just lost the best. He's in San Diego now. But I think Lincoln Riley, there's a definite argument that this guy is a quarterback developer and has done a remarkable job placing quarterbacks in the NFL, Heisman Trophy candidates, Heisman winners. So I don't think I'd like to hear somebody argue that he's not the best quarterback developer in the country. And so, and when I say that, and I say that about Jim as well, you remember they're going to be passing those traits down to their assistant coaches, their quarterback coaches. So he's going to have his hands on the quarterback position. He's going to have a lot of influence. He's going to know what he wants to do as far as developing his quarterback. Offensively, I think Lincoln Riley is an excellent offensive coach. He's always historically he's in the top for points scored for his offenses. His problem has not been offense at SC or Oklahoma, for that matter. His issue has always been his weakness, and that's his defensive influence or what he thinks the importance of defense is. And I think he goes along with the theory that I'm going to outscore everybody, and the defense, if we can get a couple stops, will be okay. We'll win the game if we get a couple stops, but offensively, we're just going to score, and that's what we're going to do. I think he's come to the realization that that's not probably the best formula to embrace. And so last year he tried. He thought he had a great defensive solution last year going into the season. Remember, I called them out. I thought they were going to be a much more improved defensive team. Well, that didn't occur. And maybe a lot of it had to do with Caleb Williams being there. And when you have such a presence on your team, that could make the other players a little bit contempt. I don't know, little jealous or maybe even content. We got the best quarterback, so I don't have to do as good a job. So I think Lincoln Riley is seeing that as not a very good strategy. He's gone out, he's tried to improve his defense, and now he brings in the DC from UCLA, Danton Lynn, and he's bringing him from UCLA. So I think there's a recruiting connection there that he's looking at bringing him in. The other thing is, I think this Lynn is going to bring more of a zone-based defense to USC. Now, is that the best thing for them? I don't know how good they are. I don't know how big they are. I like playing base defense primarily with any talent, but if I'm a little bit less, if I don't have the talent, I'm going to probably blitz a little bit more. Where I think this guy is going to come in, he's going to try to put his base defense in, his zone packages in behind it, and then recruit to it in the following years. But this year, I think he's going to have a little bit of problem implementing his defensive strategy.
I like it. If you were watching USC the last few years, Caleb Williams didn't play in their bowl games, and then they put this redshirt junior Miller Moss in there, and he throws for nearly 400 yards and 6 touchdowns in the Holiday Bowl. Did he throw all 6 touchdowns in the first half? That was just an amazing performance by him. And as you might expect, I was just looking at the number one quarterback recruit. He's coming in this weekend to LA for a visit. They've got another transfer that is on the roster. I mean, they're loaded at the quarterback position, pretty important position, and they just got it in spades there with Lincoln Riley with what they have. They also were able to hit a running back from Mississippi State. They got a couple different ones. Woody Marks. He's pretty good. But, Jerry, USC reminds me a little bit, and maybe this new defensive coordinator, he'll end up working out, but they look like, just looking at the players that I knew, in some of they're gone. They hit the transfer portal. So, I'm not sure that they have the material on the defensive side. It might take them a year or two. They remind me a little bit of Ohio State light. They've got tremendous offense, but the way that they run the spread and whatever is going on, I picture them, out there in California in shorts, and they're just throwing it around, and the defense is kind of like, they're not tough. That toughness, I know it gets thrown out. People just say it all the time about Ohio State, but there's a point to it. that Ohio State, they don't. You got to practice. You got to spar if you're going to be a boxer. And it's like they're boxing, but they're just out there jumping rope, and they're just working the speed bag. They're not getting in there sparring at all. And until they do that and take it seriously, I'm not sure that they're going to be able to bring that side to the table and the personnel side. That's at least what I'm thinking about them here in June.
Well, I watched the spring game for USC this year, and it shocked me that, again, here's another team in the Big Ten that's playing two-hand touch on the running back and the receiver. And to me, that just sends a completely wrong message to my team that I'm afraid of getting hurt, as opposed to we're going to play because we're on the field and we're going to protect ourselves and we're going to give the shot to the other team just as well. So, it goes back to that mindset. I don't think, you want to be tough. You want to play good, tough, hard-nosed football. But at the end of the day, you are what you are. And when I see teams out in spring ball playing two-hand touch on the running backs and receivers, I'm not sure they made the commitment yet.
Yeah, well, they're going to be able to find out pretty quickly on September 21st when they come into the big house. That's when we'll see them. Are you ready to talk a little bit? Do we have video on?
I don't have any video, Denny. I couldn't get the video up, but
right,
no, I did watch the spring game.
Okay.
I did look at some of their, they, like you said, Denny, they do have a lot of transfers coming in. The kid from Mississippi State. And again, this goes back to their philosophy. What is this Marks known for? He's known for catching passes out of the backfield. He is a pass threat more than a run threat, from what I'm reading and from what I'm understanding. Okay. Mm-hmm. Again, a more emphasis on the pass game. That's all. That's who you are. That's who you are. But at the end of the day, that's not preparing your defense, in my opinion. Okay. Your defense is now more geared to stop the pass because that's what they see in practice every day, as opposed to stopping the run, which is what you're going to see when you come to the big house. And those are two different types of players, Denny. I'm telling you right now, those are two different types of players.
All right. If you had to predict that game, Michigan and USC, I think Michigan will be a slight favorite in that game. But I think if you told me that Michigan beats Texas, which I think that they will, that the majority of people are thinking that they're just going to bowl over USC. You lose to Texas, and all of a sudden that game becomes you don't have any mulligans. I mean, you can lose a game, you can lose two, but you can't lose too many, and then the games get tougher. So, depending on how Texas goes, how people are going to feel about USC, that's how that's going to end up going, right?
I would probably agree with that wholeheartedly, Denny. Yep, absolutely. Like I said, I just did some notes on USC. I went through, looked at their spring game, looked at some of their personnel. The one kid that really freaks me out is this Zachariah Branch. This kid is good. This kid is legit.
What position does he play? Oh, punt returner?
Wide receiver, punt returner. Last year, first time USC All-American as a punt returner. This guy is dangerous. I saw him against Utah, and I saw him against some other other teams. This guy is dangerous. He's a game changer. He can keep USC in games from back there. So we're gonna have to know where he is and how to keep the ball away from him as much as possible. Like we talked about Woody Marks already, the transfer from Mississippi State, and yeah, I'm seeing some transfers coming in for USC. This Kamari Ramsey. Here's the defensive coordinator looking to get his defensive personnel with people that are familiar with his defensive scheme and his defensive philosophy. So he brings in Kamari Ramsey, a transfer from UCLA. So that's a pretty good pickup. Secondary guy, he's going to be able to run the defense. Jalen Smith is a heck of a defensive cornerback. MVP of the Holiday Bowl. And again, that Holiday Bowl game was a very impressive game to me. I had USC getting blown out, to be honest with you.
Me too.
And they really impressed me the way they came out, and I think it had a lot to do with Caleb Williams not being there. I think there's a good part to having Caleb Williams, but there's also the bad part of having Caleb Williams, and I think USC experienced some of that this year. But I think they answered some of that in the Holiday Bowl last year. I think they could be better. I think they're still a few players away. Offensive line, they're going to be moving their big offensive tackle, Jonah Monheim, from offensive tackle. He's going to be moving in the center. So, that's a huge position on the offensive line to move tackle to center. We're going to see how that goes. But early on, that could be a little bit of an issue for him. Couple things on defense that pretty good. This Anthony Lewis transfer from Texas A&M, outside edge, outside defensive end player, and he transferred from Texas A&M, and I believe he was in that Texas A&M class that our buddy was Jimbo Fisher was so happy about getting. And so 2 years later, he's at USC, and I think he's going to be a good ball player. He's a solid ball player, 6'5", 275, transferred from Texas A&M. I think he's going to be good. Stanley Tuolofo, defensive lineman, 6'2", 275. Again, their size is a little bit questionable. They might be a little bit undersized to just sit back in a base defense. I got no problem playing Mason Graham at 6'2", 315 as a three technique playing base defense all the time, or Kenneth Grant. But when you got these guys at 270, 275, you're going to have to move them around, because if they sit back, they're going to probably get blown off the ball a little bit. Bear Alexander, he might give them some stability inside, transfer from Georgia. Great, good defensive lineman. I think he's going to be present some problems for us. But that's a little bit of my take on USC as far as some of their key standout personnel players. We already talked about Miller Moss. I think he had a phenomenal record-breaking game in the Holiday Bowl. So they've got some players. They've got some players coming in from the transfer portal. New defensive staff. We'll see. I think they're still light.
Yeah, I can't get over, what was it? It wasn't last year. It was the year before, probably the Pac-12 championship game when they took on Utah. I have never been more embarrassed for a team than watching USC try to play defense. They were, you mentioned they were playing two-hand touch, but it was in a real game. It wasn't even a spring game. And there was no wrap it up. And I really couldn't believe it. I saw it the first time, and this tight end, I think it was Kincaid, ended up going to Buffalo, but these guys were trying to wrap him up. And he was busting through him like he was Gronk. And it was just the most embarrassing thing.
Again, buddy, we're watching the spring game. We're watching the spring game, just like Ohio. We're watching their spring game, and they're playing two-hand touch. If they're playing two-hand touch in the spring game and it's being televised, what are they doing in practice?
Right. No.
Okay. And that tells you the preparation and the intensity that they're looking at playing the game. Okay. They're playing a different. They're not playing the same game that we're playing. At this point in time.
Jerry, I think it's going to be as I say, a great game. It's the game is at 3:30, so USC gets a little bit of a break there. Ferris is saying he wishes that it was at noon. Of course, that would be great.
Are you sure it's at 3:30, Denny?
Yeah. Yes, it is at 3:30. I'm looking at the schedule. I've got it right in front of me. It is at 3:30. The other thing about USC is that we know Michigan is playing Texas in week 2. USC is playing in this Vegas Kickoff Classic on September the 1st, which is a Sunday. So Michigan will play Fresno on Saturday, August the 31st. Sunday, September the 1st, it's USC and LSU. So they're getting a big-time test themselves. Michigan, Texas, USC, LSU, and then they will meet on the 21st. So
2 weeks later.
Will have been tested thoroughly heading into that game. So you'll know a little bit about both sides when you're getting ready to see them play on that day.
Denny, I'm going to probably give way to your knowledge and say that the game's at 3:30, but I'm looking on the SEC USC site, and their schedule says 12:30.
They're probably using West Coast time, Jerry.
Yeah, you're right, Denny. You're right. You're absolutely right. Forgot about that.
It happens with them. They'll put it on there. You think, oh, it would be awesome. But, just like when Penn State came in the Big Ten, they were given the sweetheart schedule and everything else. And you knew that there were going to be some things. Like, what would be best is if Michigan was playing what Michigan plays Northwestern, their last home, their home finale this year. That is on November the 23rd. I would love Northwestern to be playing, Michigan Northwestern on the 21st of September. And if USC was playing November the 23rd, man, that would be great. But, we're going to get maybe Michigan will make the college football playoff and maybe they'll get a bye. But that first round of games is going to be at the home site. Oh, I'm hoping you get Michigan, LSU, Michigan, Florida. I don't know if Florida's going to be able to get in there, but you're going to get hopefully something like that. A warm weather team having to play in the cold. That's just going to be, Miami's not making the playoff, but man, can you imagine Miami coming in on December the 14th? Woo, that would be something.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I've always said that. I mean, when we go out to the Rose Bowl, there's a definite disadvantage. Not only are we traveling all those miles, but we're playing in a climate that we're not really used to at that point in time in this season, and they're playing in their home temperature. So yeah, obviously, those types of games are going to be real interesting to see who shows up. How many times we've seen the Oakland Raiders come out to Buffalo and not do very well. So, great point. Absolutely.
And FK making a great point. He would rather not have a tough game before Ohio State. So,
that was another interesting point, Denny. Everybody's talking about Michigan's schedule. When you look at Michigan's schedule, the last two games before Ohio State, what are they? I think it's Indiana and
Northwestern.
Indiana and Northwestern. Not crushing games. Not like going to Penn State. Not like going to Happy Valley and playing Penn State with your coach in the motel room, and then having to go out to Maryland and facing one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So that lines up real nice for us. Playing Indiana and Northwestern before Ohio State. I like that. I think that favors our schedule over last year's.
Jerry, before we ask you if you have a final point, I don't know if you understand this feedback or not. It says, Jerry, all we need is Vinny, Scotty, and Bugs. Do you know what that means?
Bugs. Well, I know Vinny and Scotty. Bugs. Is
that from your guys that played with you or something?
Yes, so yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. That's what I thought. What did you have any final thoughts?
Well, I like I said, we're kind of looking at this preseason work, trying to get our homework a little bit done before the season, looking at some of the opponents, and the final thing we wanted to talk about was win-loss, plus or minus, and I'm looking at USC's schedule, and I'm thinking they're going to beat Utah State, Minnesota away, Maryland away, Washington away. I think they're going to have a little bit of trouble with Nebraska, but since they're at home, I think they'll be okay. And I think they're going to beat UCLA. So I think they're going to have 6 solid wins. I think they're going to have 3 solid losses. And I think they're going to lose the LSU in that neutral site in Texas. I think we're going to beat them. And I think they're going to have all kinds of problems with Notre Dame next year. I think Notre Dame is going to be a much better team next year. Bubble games, they've got 3 bubble games at home: Wisconsin, Penn State, and Rutgers. And to be honest with you, I think they win 2 of those bubble games. I think they They can beat Wisconsin. I think they can beat Rutgers. I think Penn State is going to surprise some people this year, and I think they're going to be pretty good, especially not having Michigan on their schedule. So, and having Ohio at home. So,
good points. I saw Joe Klatt a couple of days ago was saying that they need to force Notre Dame and USC not to play anymore because USC is now in the Big Ten, and so they can line up the schedules a little bit better. It is thinking about playing one of your non-conference games as your final game of the year is strange, but that's college football now. That's what'll happen.
Yeah, that's USC for forever, for history. I mean, they put, and again, here it goes back to the climate again, Denny. USC comes and travels up to South Bend mid-October. Weather's still pretty decent.
Yeah.
Notre Dame travels to South Bend. When do they play? December. Climate favorable to USC again. So, yeah, I think climate's going to have a lot to do with it. Bunny, I have no idea what that means.
Bunny and bugs. All right. Well, Jerry, it's you never know what you're going to get. Have a great weekend. We like the knowledge, like what you had to say about USC. Everybody for participating. We'll talk with you next week. Jerry, great job, and we'll talk with you soon.
Thanks to all the fans out there. I love all the interaction. Hail to the victors. We'll be talking about some other teams in the future.
Smash that like button. For Jerry Diorio, I'm Dennis Fithian. Have yourself a great weekend.